In this lesson, we will finalize the initial blocking pass of the villain. So our next pose, which will lie on frame 32, will be one where the knees still follow in and nearly touch the torso of the villainess. So we still want the principle of follow through to exist even in this blocking phase. One tip I'd like to keep in mind is that your blocking pass should be about 80% of your entire animation. That's how important it is. So this is where we want to not only set our key poses, but get the timing to be exactly what we'd like to see by the time we start to refine things. Alright, so I'm just having her starting to roll over to her right now. Just rotating her center of gravity. And rotating her down a bit so we can then lift her up. And then start to adjust the legs to have her kind of compress in. So I'll go ahead and grab the left knee and also translate that in. After we're done with the legs, we could then take a look at the line of action of the torso and see if that can be adjusted. A powerful line of action leads to a powerful pose. We just want to make sure that's there. We also want to avoid twinning at this point, so let's make sure that this pose that we set does not have that issue of symmetry in the character's legs. So I'll go ahead and bring the right leg so it's closer in. I'll bring the knee out. And then I'll adjust the angle of the ankle here. Okay, great. I might bring this in a little bit more to exaggerate it. Rotate the ankle back for follow through, and I think this will work out well. I just bring the leg up a bit. Then we could go ahead and test this pose by just scrubbing. I'd like to now start adjusting the hips, rotating them in to fix the line of action, and also translating them in as well. Alright, you can see how as she comes in and compresses that she's not quite sliding back as she should. So with her doing this in place, it's going to look wrong when we play back the animation. So at this point, I'd just like to grab all of her translation controls. So the legs, the arms, as we've done before, the center of gravity. Don't want to forget about the knees, so that should be everything. Just double checking. And now at this point, I'd like to just go ahead and bring her back a bit more to have her slide. Much better. Alright, great. So let's start having her roll over to the side now. So it's going to be a few frames after, and what we're actually posing here is a hold frame before she finally stops, comes to rest a few frames after. So in about 36, let's go ahead and have her now rotate over to her right. So I'll go ahead and start with the center of gravity. We'll rotate, and then we'll go ahead and move that over. That might be too much. I'll go ahead and bring her back and then start to rotate. We'll worry about the arms after we've posed this. We're just trying to get a feel of the animation, see what we would expect from the arms from 32 to 36. I'm just adjusting her upper body so it feels like a nice roll when she moves over. I think it's just about there. Might have translated over a bit too much to the right, to her right. So I'll go ahead and adjust that. Much better. And now we can have the legs start to fall in that direction. So I'll start with the right leg. We'll just go ahead and pull that over. Rotate it over to the side. Great. Bring the knee down. When we start to smooth this out, we'll make sure that the legs show some really nice weight. So I'll show you some tricks to have that happen. Let's go ahead and start to bring over the left leg. We'll adjust the knee. Bring that over as well. Great. Okay, so this is looking nice. Want to make sure that there's more spacing here with the legs as they fall so that when we start to time this out, again, we don't run into any twinning because we've taken care of that in our blocking pass. So you can see the difference, the spacing from 32 to 36. Ultimately, that will lead to a very nice fall. We can also go to the hips and kind of rotate those and pull them over to fix the pose some more. All right, so let's go ahead and now take care of the arms. So just scrubbing back and forth, trying to get a feel of things. I'd say on 32, I would like to have the sword arm fall, given the weight of the sword. Can have that kind of fall to the floor. Great. It's looking good. Then we'll want to bring the elbow down. Also on 32. All right, beautiful. And at this point, I would like to have the left arm also kind of fall to the floor here. And then by the time we get to 36, it's almost as if it bounces off the floor and starts to follow through to the right. So I'm going to go ahead and take the left elbow and start just bringing that down some. Great. And as far as the shoulders go, let's go ahead and take a look. On 32, you might want to adjust the twist to get a little bit of volume back. So I'm adjusting A and B. Also go ahead and rotate it down some. Okay, might even try C, just until we get the volume back, and I think that looks nice. All right, so she falls, might have the left arm brought in just a little bit more. And then we can go ahead and make sure that the elbow drops. Okay, let's go ahead and now move to 36. So here, she starts to come across. We can have the left arm start to follow through. So I'll go ahead and start to drag that over to the right and fix its orientation. Then I'll go ahead and adjust the elbow so that there's a little bit of drag here. Maybe bring it up just a little bit more. Great. For the sword arm, we can have that actually come up as it has now bounced off the floor at this point. And I'll go ahead and make sure to rotate the blade down slightly just to make sure we have a really nice bounce that shows weight. All right, and that brings us to our very last pose. So that will happen on frame 40, where she finally comes to rest. So let's go ahead and rotate her over. Just twist her over here. Just using the center of gravity to do that. working on the core motion first, and everything else that will follow. Once we're set on the core. All right, great. So that's getting there. I think we can also have it slide over. So I'll just go ahead and translate our core. Let's now start to adjust the arms. So I'll just go ahead and start to move the sword arm so it rests right next to her. We'll rotate the blade down so it rests on the floor. And we can adjust the elbows so that they also rest. And now for the left arm, we'll have that swing around. Let's go ahead and adjust the wrist, and then have that also rest on our ground. I'll go to the torso and twist that, and then we could start to adjust her shoulder, bringing that over. So it's just a matter of tweaking until we finally have the pose that we'd like to see. Looks like the shoulder needs a little bit of work. I'll go ahead and on frame 40, just zero the twist out on both. Okay, great. Let's take a look. That's actually on 41. No worries. I'll just go ahead and select all of her controls. Again, we want to set a key. Delete the key on 40, and then slide 41 over. And we're good to go. Okay. Now you can see that the fingers also need to rest on the surface here. So what I'll do is go back to all of her controls, go to frame 36, and set a key to save that pose. And now when we get to 40, we can go in and start to zero out the fingers. So I'll just go to the index and zero those channels out, just right-clicking. And we can go ahead and rotate them in a way where they would rest naturally. Just about done. Again, when we get to the ring finger, again, we'll just zero out those channels. And I'd also recommend getting a really natural hand pose here. So we don't want to just leave the fingers evenly spread out. There might be a few that are closer together. And a good tip for this that I like to keep in mind is to just look at your hand and see what your hand would do if it was to rest on the floor this way. So it takes a little bit of acting the scene out, and we should always get into the habit of doing that. It's not only fun, but we then find little gems that we can apply to our work. So I'd highly recommend that you act out your shots. All right, let's go in and adjust the legs. We'll have one on top of the other. So let's have the right rest on the floor, and then the left leg will rest on top of the right. So I'll just go ahead and drop that to the floor, grab the knee control, bring that over. I want to fix the orientation of the foot, so I'll just go ahead and drag that down and then bring it up. Beautiful. And then I might even tuck this in a bit more. And rotate the foot down to fix the angle of the ankle. It was a bit broken, so I just wanted to make sure that was fixed before we start to tweak the left foot. So again, we'll just have that overlap. And then we'll bring the knee down. I can't wait to smooth this out because we'll learn a cool trick for adding weight to the body as it falls over. So that's going to be a cool topic. But there we have it. So we have our final pose in place. So this would be a good time to play back the animation just to make sure we're satisfied with what we have. But just to play it back now, here's what we end up with. And this is really cool. So we're just about done with her animation, believe it or not. I'm going to go ahead and stop the lesson here. And in the next lesson, we're going to go ahead and take a look at all of our poses, just double checking them. And then we'll also make sure that they're all locked down so we don't lose any of the hard work we've put into the blocking pass before we start to block in our heroine.